In America's cities and towns today, flags will be placed on graves and cemeteries. Public officials will speak of the sacrifice and the valor of those whose memory we honor. I have no illusions about what little I can add now to the silent testimony of those who gave their lives willingly for their country. Words are even more feeble on this Memorial Day, for the sight before us is that of a strong and good nation that stands in silence and remembers those who were loved and who in return loved their countrymen enough to die for them. Yet we must try to honor them, not for their sakes alone, but for our own. And if words cannot repay the debt we owe these men, surely with our actions we must strive to keep faith with them and with a vision that led them to battle and a final sacrifice. Our first obligation to them and ourselves is plain enough. The United States and the freedom for which it stands, the freedom for which they died, must endure and prosper. Their lives remind us that freedom is not bought cheaply. It has a cost. It imposes a burden. And just as they whom we commemorate were willing to sacrifice, so too must we, in a less final, less heroic way, be willing to give of ourselves. Each died for a cause he considered more important than his own life. Well, they didn't volunteer to die. They volunteered to defend values for which men have always been willing to die if need be. The values which make up what we call civilization. And how they must have wished, in all the ugliness that war brings, that no other generation of young men to follow would have to undergo that same experience. As we honor their memory today, let us pledge that their lives, their sacrifices, their valor shall be justified and remembered for as long as God gives life to this nation. And let us also pledge to do our utmost to carry out what must have been their wish, that no other generation of young men will ever have to share their experiences and repeat their sacrifice. Earlier today, with the music that we have heard, and that of our national anthem, I can't claim to know the words of all the national anthems in the world, but I don't know of any other that ends with a question and a challenge as ours does. Does that flag still wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? That is what we must do.
What's up, Trash Talkers? What's going on, Gruntworks Nation? Anybody watching in the Elon universe that we don't know about? Appreciate you guys joining us. Third year now, right, buddy? Doing this?
I think so, third.
Yeah, third year to where, we always talk about on VTT, especially in the Book of Earl, it's our own learning from our own mistakes. And I was reminded of it today on Warrior's Heart with Tom Spooner, right? He was getting interviewed by somebody, one of those famous podcasts, not ours. He was on our podcast first, though. But he's on one of those.
Not a huge deal.
Yeah, one of those famous ones. And, he's talking about how, even he used to get all drunk and howl at the moon and, get pissed off at people for saying Happy Memorial Day and yada, yada. He's like, what have you done to honor what your battle buddies gave? And if you make it about yourself and just get shit-faced and be rude to everybody, I mean, is it about your battle buddies? Is it about Memorial Day, or is it about you? Right? So we're not telling anybody how to live, how to act. All right. We're just talking about, what we've seen in our lives, and maybe you've seen something similar or different. And I'll get off my soapbox here in a second. But if you do like to just go be by yourself on a day like this, nobody's saying you can't. All right, go do it. But come out stronger. Right. And I thought about something that I wanted to start. Maybe Buddy can comment on it. But instead of New Year's resolutions, why don't we start doing Memorial Day resolutions? To where hey, I'm going to change this in my life to be more productive because that's what my boy Dutch would have wanted. Right. That's what he would have wanted to see me do. Cause he wasn't my boy. He was my leader. He was more your boy, buddy. But, I'll open it up. We're just here, and we were before we were live. If you have somebody you want us to honor, put their name in the chat. Maybe a little detail about them. If you want to come on, message the Big Earl on Facebook, and I'll send you the link. Because I know Troy. We got Tony there. Tony just came on. I don't know who Tony is. Tony messaged me, so he's like, "I want to come on," and we're all in Arizona. We got Sean Erickson. Big follower here, has been a good friend of our team since the beginning. We got the Marines. All right, here they come. They're taking it by force. All right, but we got Jason, author of The Perfect Fucking Life. Great book and a great man, and he's been a guest on our show. And George, all right, the CEO and founder of VSR, which is an awesome platform. VRS, sorry, same thing. All right.
He's dyslexic. I don't know if you know that.
So
it was real hard when he was calling off.
Don't correct me or you'll get banned. No. but he's got a great platform over there. So go check them out. And I guess he wrestled at I don't know, some Division 4 school in Maine. Is that where you wrestled? Not quite sure.
Oh my God.
But
how do you lift that coffee cup over those banana pepper arms?
Hey, good luck locking these arms up. They'll slide right through.
That's the thing about having real arms. They just
might be short, but it's skinny.
They go limp. Yeah.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that arm triangle when you can't even get my arm. It's too skinny. So Tony, you can talk. Hey, welcome to the platform. How you doing? How's everybody doing?
Good. Want to hear from Tony? Still in uniform.
Tony, you can talk. What you got going on?
Hey, how's it going, Jets? I just got done doing some flag folding down in northern Arizona, and I wanted to jump on and say, represent my boys out there, and I know their families too as well. But I wasn't able to tag them yet. Still trying to get some free time to do that. We got flags in the back to represent, for those that have passed before us. Yeah, my boys are going to be Gunner Sergeant David A. Spicer, and he was an EOD tech. Him as well as Sergeant Michael Wayne Heaty Jr., also a Marine from 1st CV, 1st Combat Engineer Battalion. And we lost both of them on July 13, 2009 to an IED. I believe it was a pressure plate, pretty big one, and pretty awful day, but this is a memorial for them, as well as another. I mean, there's more out there, but another one of my Marines that we lost was his name was Lance Corporal Alec Robert Turisky, and he was killed in action in September 3rd, 2012. So, I just like to make a little bit of representation for them and memorialize them as well. And thank you guys for having me on.
Hey, Tony, I'm glad you're on. I mean, you're still in uniform, so that means that you're still in. And not to be the old guy, but as an old guy who's lost some buddies too, not that you're wrong, but just to kind of guide your perspective a little bit, their names are still their names. They weren't. His name was. He is that person. That guy's still looking. He's still watching you. They're still there. And Earl was talking earlier, or Nick was talking earlier about a lot of people are very angry on Memorial Day, somber, sad, all that stuff. And Nick said something about making it kind of like a New Year's resolution or whatever. And I kind of have a little bit of the same theory, but I was thinking about it today, and I decided that on Memorial Day I would make a memory with somebody in my family that somebody that I lost would have wanted to make with their family. You know what I mean? And put it different.
Yeah, definitely.
That way, it's not a sad thing; it's a happy thing. And then, if you want to share some of you shared their names, and they're remembered because of that. But if you want to share some of the good times that you had with them and like tell some stories about the good times, because at the end of the day, our friends died, but they also lived. You know what I mean? And remembering
Yeah, definitely.
how they lived is so much more important than remembering how they died. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I just want to make a little correction. I'm not still in it, so I'm done. I just maintain the uniform and the looks. Well, I usually don't shave, but I shave, so because we do it like a little
At least you're
flag
still hitting it.
unfolding and folding ceremony. So
Okay.
we just do that for the locals.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
nothing too crazy. We're just out here trying to support our community and the fallen warriors as well. I mean, it's kind of different mentality here and there, but yeah, I get what you mean, and we do appreciate it. Especially, I didn't even know that this went on every year, I believe. But yeah, like I didn't really know Gunny Spicer or I'd say David that well, but he was just one of those run and gun gunnies, like just out there all the time, just fucking shit up and blowing shit up. I was like, hey man, you want this? You want to blow this? Want to blow this thing? Want a bit? I'm like, fuck yeah, all right. It's just like random guys in the unit. So, and then Heedy.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Heedy, he was like one of those guys, like 300 PFTer and everything like that. Yeah, he was just one of those guys.
See the markers for the runners.
Okay. Give me a second. And he's one of those guys. He was one of our squad leaders, and he maintained, excellence, something that we would like to epitomize every day. And then, of course, one of my guys, Trawisky, he was a pretty funny dude. He was in my squad, and yeah, unfortunate day that happened. That morning, we had a good PT session and, the fun times. He had a little bit of a list, but you couldn't tell after a while. So, yeah, we love the guy. Well, we love each other, but, you know how it is with your boys.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. When you're talking, it reminds me of, Nick knows him, Dan Woodcock. I remember that dude when we were we were supposed to be going with the Iraqi police to go do a raid, and we were there for damn near 24 hours waiting for this raid to happen. And we had all done our rehearsals and like done our shit, like we were fucking just kind of sitting there. The Iraqis had brought us some bread, so we're like eating bread, date, whatever.
Foot bread.
Yeah. They're putting bread and freaking date spread or fig spread or whatever. And like look over, and there's one dude with his team, like more rehearsals and like running around. And I remember like my first thought was like, who is this brown nosed piece of shit that's over here? Like, dude, you're doing too much. And then I like looked over and figured out that it was Dan Woodcock, and we all just went, oh, it's Dan, just Dan doing Dan things. Like, not a big deal. That's but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, to be honest, that one memory is like for the rest of my career. It was like whenever we were like downtime or doing something, and we were getting ready to go on a mission, I'd be like, well, fuck, man, like probably ought to go do some more rehearsals real quick. Like I'm trying to be like that guy, and then you go do some more rehearsals. You know what I mean? They're good dudes.
How come it's the best?
Oh yeah, well, I gotta jump out and.
Hey Tony,
but I'll listen.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump out, but I'll be listening.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you, gents.
Yeah,
thank you, brother.
Appreciate that.
Brah.
Y'all have a good afternoon.
Here we go. They're all going to
Bye,
start
killers.
vomiting again.
You guys can all like
Oh my God.
Super Fidelis,
Rock, kill, destroy.
Yeah.
Semper
Cowbell. Semper Cowbell.
Iwo Jima. Everybody. Iwo Jima.
Yeah. Oh, man. I was going to say something too before we start the show. These guys are on it, but those of you watching live, appreciate it. Hey, like I said, just Jen, you don't got to come on. Like I said, she's right. She goes, there's too many names to list. That's correct, right?
7,000 just in ours.
Yeah, one name is too many to list. But if you can name one name, we'll say it and maybe put a little blurb about them, where they were from, and because you got there's always that what do they call it, imposter syndrome. There's always that guy that comes in and says in the back of your mind, don't do this again this year, right? Don't maybe don't say the same name again, and there's some kind of doubt coming in. It's like no, I'm gonna say their name, right? And I'm gonna do it, because you're gonna have the cancers out there, especially in the veteran community, that are like, oh, well, you're just looking for attention. No, we're not. Like, not at all,
dude.
Right?
I think you nailed like one of the biggest struggles that I've confronted myself with today, and on Veterans Day too, but mostly today, is like, am I making this about me? Like, what the fuck? Even like, I wrote that shit, and you saw that shit I posted on Facebook.
It was awesome.
I was struggling fucking yesterday, and kind of working through some shit, and I was like, I was trying to write something about my brother, and I was like, God damn, I'm making this about me. What the fuck? But the thing is, you can't fucking separate the two, dude. It's not just that we were brothers. We were fucking like dependent upon each other, like interdependent. You know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah, that's the
I think
crazy.
that's what we fucking missed.
Yeah, you're right. It's hard to explain that, especially hard to explain that to people that haven't really been in that. Even people that have been in the military and may not have deployed or been combat arms. It's super hard to explain that camaraderie with somebody that does. It's like trying to explain what a steak tastes like to a vegan that has never had meat before. You know what I mean? It's just, you can tell all you want, but you really can't. You can't put that umami in their mouth. You know what I mean?
I think the problem is that, we had this thing with Joe Rogan quotes it a few times and says most men live a life of quiet desperation. And I think the problem is that I'm 58, and in all my years, the only time that I've had any equivalent.
Old as fuck, bro. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Again, you can take the Pepsi challenge anytime you want. I mean, I will hit, and I told you, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to hit you with an Uchimata. I would dislocate your shoulder.
I don't know why you're picking up Asian gentlemen.
I don't know why you're going to hit me with an Asian guy.
There's a new way, George.
That is fucked
up. I'll show you a wrist lock, and then I'm gonna go walk away and have some Euro meat. So, but in all my years, the only time that I've had an equivalent to being in the military was being on the wrestling mat with the guys that we wrestled with, and because most people don't, they don't do anything of merit, and when going back, one of the guys I miss the most is Major Mendoza, who was my training partner for 3 years at Ohio State. He was killed in Iraq in 2005, stepped on an IED when he was leading Echo Company 2-1. And, every day for 3 years, I wrestled him in practice every day. So, and so he wrestled for the Marine Corps team. I wrestled for the Marine Corps team. And you don't build a bond with most people like that. If you're working at a warehouse, and you've got, Chuck and Ed and whatever over there, it's not the same. You're not, and so I think what happens is there's an article written why men yearn to go back to war is because you have that camaraderie. You have that, that trust. You have that, you have a mission to get done. And once you leave and you're separated from it, you're isolated. A lot of times you don't get a chance to hang out with your friends. You miss that. And I think that, that's one of the problems with a lot of veterans have an issue with is that, you don't have your boys around you that have your back. And
George, can I go like a step further into this? Because you're onto something here. I think when you really peel back the onion on this, though, And it sounds kind of lame at first, but I think and we might have talked about this last time I was on here, but I think that one of the things is that when you get out, you aren't needed anymore. And it's not like, oh, I want to be needed, whatever. It's like, I miss being someone needing me to operate at freaking 100, 200 fucking % at the top of my game all the time, because that's what they're fucking doing. And that's what everyone in the fucking team is doing. And in recon, it was cool because no one was ever like, come on, you can do it. In the selection process, it's like, if you can't do it, fuck off. Right? If you can't motivate yourself to get to the point where you can fucking pass, selection, whatever the fuck it is, then you're going to be sucking off of some other dude. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Sucking, the fucking energy or power or whatever from some other part of the team. And we can't fucking have that. When you're all contributing, and you're motivating yourself to be there, that's like you are needed, and you are needed to perform at that level, because that's the expectation. You get out and you're just like, oh yeah, we kind of need to show up to time, at work on time. And if you fuck it up, there's like, that's not that big of a deal. Like, when you expect someone to be amazing, they're going to do everything they can fucking do to prove you right about them. But when you expect them to be a fucking piece of shit or don't expect much of them, guess what? They're going to rise to that fucking challenge.
Well, and I think the other people is that I think part of the other problem is that most people have not performed at an exceptional level. So, we had this the other day, and I had this discussion, and it's and I'm not trying. And again, I know I'm going to take shit from Earl, but. So for 6 years in a row, I was on the mat with 2 Olympians. And my freshman year at Ohio State, I was on the mat. 3 of my coaches were Olympians. 1 gold medalist, 1 silver medalist, and an Olympian who took 7th. And for 4 of the years I was at Ohio State, my training partners are UFC Hall of Famers. So if you were having a bad day, at score, you were having a bad day and you got on the mat, it got considerably worse. And I mean, it was like, okay, that's the easy part of the day. You're getting on the mat. And so I went to 2 Olympic trials, and I take certain things for granted. And I'm like, well, why can't you hit that move? Or why can't you, I get on the mat with some people. Why can't? And they're like, bro, most people haven't done that, And you take a look at the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps in Parris Island graduates roughly it's like 18,000. It's like 9,000 Marines a year. There's not that very many people at Parris Island.
I thought it was just 3. I thought you guys, it was only a few of you.
Yeah,
that's right.
I don't know. I can't. Listen. You're asking me to do math on Memorial Day.
I'm just saying, 2 in American means 3.
You're asking me to do math on Memorial Day? Come on,
yeah. I mean, I'm glad George described his time as a fluffer at Ohio State.
But seriously, you take a look at, I'm going to, point this out. Most people that go to, whether you go to selection, go to Ranger School, go to jump school, once you get done, they expect you to be good. Yeah. They expect you to have that, that post-course knowledge, and most people don't do any of that. And that's why you run into guys with stolen valor because they want to associate with. You think about this. There have been instances of stolen valor where they get tattoos. Imagine being never serving and getting a Ranger tattoo, a SEAL tattoo, or that. Imagine how fucked up your life would have to be to do that.
Or John Wayne on your arm.
Okay. I guess.
That's my great uncle, man. Marion Michael Morrison was his real name.
Yeah. Is it really? Is that your? Are you related to him, buddy?
Yeah. No shit.
Oh no, I'm not.
Jason is. Buddy's just a Green Beret.
It's a tattoo of John Wayne when he played the Green Beret in the Green Beret.
He funded that movie out of his own pocket, and he almost went bankrupt over it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great America.
My favorite John Wayne movie, and I want to, if you guys ever get a chance to go to, it's worth a trip. My favorite John Wayne movie, bar none, is The Quiet Man. Best movie I think he ever made. It was one of the absolute.
I'd argue.
There's no argument. There's no argument.
Yeah.
The shoot is the second.
Hey, I gotta stop you for a second.
But
those let me stop you, George, for 1 second. We got a lot of chats going on here. Those of you watching live, appreciate you. And again, we're just here because it's Memorial Day, and we've started this a couple of years ago. And just like our trash talk hour, we come on here and we just bullshit. I mean, we didn't script this. All of a sudden, the conversation is about John Wayne. And old Jason Wheeler's on the chat now. What's up, buddy? And he's like, being a fluffer is not a bad thing, George. We all been one at one time. So
it's okay.
Yeah. But anyway, Jen Tubman's been on the chat. She says she's camera shy. And she wants to honor Sergeant Major Jeffrey Vocal. If I said that right, was a Seaburn and Arabic cryptolinguist. She says she remembers him, was a staff sergeant, always led from the front. Awesome working with him. No matter how far up the ladder he went, we could all have a drink with him. So, yeah, Jen, we honor, we honor him just by saying his name. And then Ricardo San Nicolas, haven't seen you in a while, Ricardo. One of our YouTube followers wants to call out Sergeant First Class Rex Sprague, Corporal Karen Clifton, Specialist Jonathan Kephart, Staff Sergeant Michael Shank. So, again, if you have a name, you can come on and talk about it. But Rico Hardy just messaged Big Earl, and I'll send you the link if you want to come on. Absolutely. But, yeah, you don't have to get all drunk and angry and pissy as a veteran, because you're going to ruin it for all of us, and it doesn't honor anybody. So appreciate you sharing those names.
What, Nick? It's not about it. You know what? And honestly, it's not even about that. It's not about ruining it for everybody else. You're ruining it for yourself.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, to be honest, you have a choice, and we say this all the time. You've got a choice of looking at something negatively or looking at something as positively as you can. And when you just look at it negatively, you're not helping yourself. Memorial Day and losing friends is already a hard thing. And if you go down that dark kind of rabbit hole and look at it negatively, instead of looking at, like I said, we tend to, like, as veterans, we tend to look at Memorial Day and look at the horrible moment that our friends' lives ended and how they ended. And of course, the empathy for them, how they died and all that stuff. But it's very rare to hear somebody talk about on Memorial Day how they lived. You know what I mean? And we talked about it earlier. Like I talked about Dan. We talk about Stan the Man. Any of the guys from the Samara 7. Like, none of those dudes, like, their death was a very short incident, but their lives were so long. And Stan was always smiling. He was always a fucking good time. You go out with Stan, or you go hang out with Stan, or you just be around Stan, and you couldn't help but laugh your ass, you know what I mean, and have a great time. And their body of work was not the end of it. It was the entire book. And we spent so much time on the final chapter instead of the entirety of the book and everything that they did and all the good shit that they did, and being happy that we even got to be in the presence of dudes that, like Sergeant Major Vogel that we were talking about earlier, that like showed how to be humble even as you go up the chain, have a beer, talk to your people, and lead the right way. Or Dan, when he showed to continue to fucking rehearse and work and come back from, like I said, Dan wasn't perfect. He had gotten a DUI right before we left, got busted down. Only person I ever met that got busted from sergeant to specialist, and nobody, to include the company commander, referred to him as Specialist Woodcock. He was fucking Sergeant Woodcock even after he got busted. Where the fuck does that happen? 6 months later, he had gotten fucking re-promoted back to sergeant because it was a for him, and he just kept it moving. And everybody around him saw how you deal with adversity by fucking watching that guy. So to deal with the adversity of him dying by being negative about it instead of just moving forward and continue to do, it would be, I mean, you might as well go piss on his grave. That's not what he was about. So why remember him that way? You know what I mean?
Well,
Right.
the other thing about Sergeant Major Vocals, he's buried at Arlington National. He's interned there, so that is a great honor. There's an old Greek idiom, is that that men.
Oh, here we go. The Greeks invented everything. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah.
That men died twice.
Greeks invented Chinese food.
They did. So they say that men died twice. One when they die, and once when their name is spoken for the last time.
Mhm.
And that has been around since since the time of Aeschylus and Euripides and them. But it's a very, that's why they're one of the Greek idioms that we say is "may their memory be eternal," because you don't want to forget their names. And that's why memorials are more for the people that are alive, because you want to remember the good things that they've done, the things that they the things that they made the world a better place by simply existing. And Jen Tubman also makes a fair point. So Stolen Valor question, I was torn. A person med rolled out of initial training but got the tats and the whole nine whatever. I'm torn on that one, and that happens a lot, where people go to boot camp and they get med rolled out. I mean, how do you deal with those people?
I wouldn't even waste my time thinking about it.
Sorry, man. You didn't.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't make it.
I mean, here's the thing: if you all right, if you get a tattoo of your basic training, anything, you have already put yourself in a pile.
You're on a level.
You're on a level of people that I'm just gonna do this to. Like, oh yeah, like 258, dude. That's a sick unit, bro.
Yeah, dude, you guys' drill ceremony was so tight. Like,
man,
you show up to fucking boot camp with a fucking recon tattoo, you're probably gonna get your ass kicked.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
oh, the blue cord tattoo, as Dave says, Face Man's on here watching it. But hey, we have someone new to the dumpster fire. Just messaged me. So Rico, what's up? What's going on? Welcome to the dumpster fire that is Veteran Trash Talk.
I'm actually not new. I've been on here before with y'all. I'm Ricardo Pareda, but I go.
Oh, I can't see the. Oh, your screen is really dark to me.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. What's up?
None, man. Just sitting here, and I saw you guys were on, and it's timely about doing things that bring honor to the memories of the fallen, and choosing to pursue something else that's not destructive, as opposed to like the general fare, right? Just tossing one back, which I'm not against, but getting sloppy with it, right? Using it as a reason to overreact to certain things and certain cues because you have license to that day or what have you. I was the one that put the names up in the chat box. I have a long name, a long Hispanic name. San Nicolas is like the last of my name. I go by Pareda in the public, but I served with all those people that I put down on the chat box. Sergeant First Class Rex Spray, who was killed in Iraq. Corporal Karen Clifton, who was killed in Iraq. Staff Sergeant Michael Shank, who was killed in Afghanistan. And Specialist Jonathan Kephart, who was killed in Iraq. The imposter syndrome for me was real, and it stuck around for a minute after my deployment. And for a while, I didn't think that I was worthy of doing really anything other than what it was the VA told me that I was to do, which is go to appointments and take medications, and then like go to groups and talk about how sad we were and shit, which isn't all of that process, but it wasn't entirely positive for me later on, as I was further removed from my deployment, it became easier to process different ways to think about the fallen and their sacrifice and what it meant. And that turned into, for me, community service work and giving back. And ultimately, individually, just like gardening has become a really therapeutic practice, especially on this day, playing with my puppies and stuff like that. So I just wanted to get on here and support y'all in the message of doing something positive with this day and to honor the memories of the fallen in a productive manner. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Rico. Yeah. And you know, we're getting over the pings on Buddy's phone. He's getting mad that everybody's texting him. You know, so, but no, well said. And I wanted to go back to when Buddy was talking about Stan the Man, and like I always talk about Dutch on Memorial Day. You know, he drank Rollin' Rock, so I'll probably have a Rollin' Rock tonight, you know, in his honor. And he saved my life. And he wasn't a buddy of mine; he was a leader of mine. And he saved my life. And him and Stan were really good buddies. And you know, it was a tragedy on how it happened, especially seeing that they died together. As one was going to save the other. And I know Jason's on the chat thread. He always comes on here because it was a good friend of his as well. But, you know, anything that we can do to honor those guys and you know, anybody, any warrior that's passed, regardless, I know it's 2024, we got to worry about gender. Like, you know, that doesn't matter. I also wanted to talk about, you know, I got my dog down here, and I named her Morley after Josh, one of our snipers. That their position was position I was attempted to get overrun. Pretty much got overrun if it wasn't for the sniper Cuervo killed like 7 dudes in close combat. But we lost Josh, and the last thing I said to him was, you know, because we had smoked a few dudes the day prior, and I was cleaning my 240, and he's like, "Hey, we're going out again tomorrow," and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll be ready. And then he came back like 2 hours later and said, hey, your platoon's switching to QRF and your PL won't let you go with us. So the sniper, for context, the sniper team always took a machine gunner from one of the platoons as protection. And so I was like, all right, man, happy hunting. And that's the last time I talked to him. Right. And so that was a tough one for me with survivor's guilt because, again, I'm trying to make it about myself. And I'm like, if I would have been out there with him, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Well, that's, again, maybe it would have, maybe it freaking wouldn't have. But, you know, I love having my dog named after him because that dog brings so much joy into my life. And, you know, she's always happy to see me in the morning. And I just get to think about him every day. So,
Brother, can I interject something there, man? I had kind of a interesting experience along those lines, but sometimes, well, I'll just tell the story. I was, some of you may know Eden Pearl. He was like legendary in the Raider MARSOC community. Guy was a fucking stud. He was the most injured man in the VA healthcare system for 5 years until he succumbed to his wounds. Anyway, like before we even fucking deployed, he was like, hey man, if I ever get burnt up real bad or you see him taking me hostage or anything, just fucking do it, man. Get it done. Pull out your 45 and take care of it. And no shit, dude. A couple years later, he was in Afghanistan. I was working for some other people over there. I wasn't in the military at the time, but sure enough, he got burnt. 9% of his body, 3rd-degree burns, quad amputee. And, you know, I don't know what the fuck I would have done if I would have been there. I mean, but I fucking told him I was, you know what I mean? So, but, and that always bothered me until I was hanging out with this old farmer. And I told him that story. And he said, you know, my uncle was born with the right arm was all messed up. And so he could only work with one arm and the other one was just kind of gimpy. And he said, but he farmed and he did everything just like anyone else. And he didn't fucking feel sorry for himself. He got over it and he fucking grew past it. And I was thinking, you know, if I would have done that for Eden, what he asked me to do, because the guy was strong as fuck. That's the only reason he survived the initial blast and lived for 5 years after. But I'm sure Eden came. I'm sure he overcame that, just like he overcame everything else that he was confronted with in the course of becoming a fucking Marine Raider recon fucking motherfucker, you know. So I didn't see it that way then. So I don't know. I'm just saying, like, sometimes we don't know what we don't know, man, and sometimes the blessing that, I fucking hate to say it. Sometimes the blessing we weren't fucking there. I don't know.
No, I hear what you're saying, Jason. And like we talk about on the Trash Talk Hour all the time, is like we're talking about our own, you know, either our own triumphs, our own mistakes, you know, the viewpoints that we had that at the time seemed like we were entitled to those viewpoints. And as you grow and mature, like a little bit, we don't mature too much as combat arms guys, but you mature a little bit, you know, and it's like, man, I was really being, I did not see it that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. Right? Like I've been wrong for multiple years sometimes with my train of thought.
Well, I think you do, man. And when you go back, and here's the thing, and I was going to say this about what Buddy was saying, you know, don't take today, go out and be a drunk asshole, fucking, yeah. But figure out what the fuck it is that's pissing you off. Think about it. And that's that shit that I wrote yesterday, and I'll fucking, we'll get into that in a little bit, but what helped me come to a resolution this Memorial Day, because it sneaks up on me every fucking year. I'm like, oh, it's Memorial Day. I'll be fine this year. Fucking, and then wham, like a fucking freight train, you know? And what helped me kind of get past that and get past the fucking angst, because I was like, what the fuck is pissing, what's bugging me? And it's the same with PTSD. If you don't fucking think through that shit. And so what I wrote then, helped me resolve what was bothering me. And dude, that's the only way to get through PTS or fucking any shit like this. You gotta figure out your way through it. And when you start peeling back the layers, just like because you know more about you now than you did then. You fucking do. And so you can go back in your mind, and if you have the fucking balls to go back in your mind to those incidents and those times, you can fucking see it from a different perspective, a new perspective, a more informed and more wise perspective than you did when you were there, because you're the same motherfucker. You just know you more than you did then. So I encourage you guys.
It's called becoming emotionally mature and intelligent about how you deal with your own bullshit. I mean, we were all 20 once, where, you know, dealing with your problem was getting drunk and getting into a fight. You know what I mean? Or, you know, just putting it behind you and keeping it moving until it catches up with you at some point. But at the end of the day, you're right. Like, you have to, you know, we didn't come to this conclusion that, you know, just drinking and being a dickhead on Memorial Day. I mean, we all went through our own, like, don't talk to me on Memorial Day. Like, I've got to be grumpy, and I've got to be an asshole, because if I'm not grumpy and an asshole, then it's not showing other people that the people that died that I cared for, they
matter to you.
Them that I cared about them. If I'm happy, then people are going to think that I moved on. I don't care. I never really gave a shit about those people, and I've forgotten them. And then when you change your perspective and say, look, it's not that I've forgotten about them. I'm here to talk about them.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and talk about the way they died. If you want to talk about the way they died, yeah, we'll talk about it. But I'm also going to tell you how they lived, because every one of them taught me a lesson, or taught the people around them lessons that they still use to this day.
Exactly, bro. That's how we keep them alive, man. We fucking manifest that shit, carry them with us for eternity, man.
And you know, we talked about a little bit of the survivor's guilt, imposter syndrome, all that other stuff. Mostly the survivor's guilt, or like Nick said, you know, not going out on that with the sniper team, or, you know, you not being there when Pearl got blown up, or any of that stuff, right? And I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to be religious. You know what I mean? If you're religious, fine. If you're not religious, also fine. That's your own journey, that's your own thing. But to me, I find it hard to not believe in a higher power when I've seen time and time again, especially in combat, where, I mean, if you do the math, for instance, like I stood in front of a building at one point and a 10-year-old shot a gun a couple hundred meters away and it landed 6 inches from my face, right? The angle of difference between me not being here and me being here is so finite and so small that I mean, it's mind-boggling to even think about, and to say that there wasn't something that saved me. You know what I mean? The difference between, you know, we had a truck that got hit by an RKG grenade in the middle of Tikrit at one point. The difference between me being the TC of that truck and the guy who was the TC of that truck was the fact that he hadn't been on patrol for a while and it was my time to take a break. But it could have just as well have been me. The point is, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't me, and it wasn't me for a reason. And that reason was not to mope and whine and bitch about, you know, how bad I feel because I wasn't there instead of me, or I wasn't there instead of him. It was to do something positive. Like, you know, there's that scene in Private Ryan where, you know, where he comes back to Bastogne or wherever, and he's like, you know, was I a good man? Did I earn it? You know,
if that doesn't hit you in the feels, I don't know.
That's our job.
Bro.
That's our job as people who survived it, is to live up to that standard and to be good, strong people, so that the ones that allowed us to live the life that we're living didn't die in vain. Like, people talk about the pullout in Afghanistan, they talk about the pullout in Iraq, and, you know, everything
Vietnam.
was in vain. Vietnam, whatever. Oh, it was all in vain. But fuck you. What I did wasn't in vain.
Yep.
Because what me and the guys that I was with did helped other people, even if it was on a micro level and not some big giant.
Hey, they weren't over here shooting RPGs, man.
Hey,
you know,
they weren't over here doing anything
back
crazy.
20 fucking years.
Right. A, they weren't over here doing anything crazy. And B, like, I don't know about you guys, but I saw more helping of other people, whether it was Iraqis or Syrians or whatever, than I did killing.
Yeah, let me jump on that, buddy, because there's that, like what you were saying about, you know, being a stronger, better person. I'm going to hit two things with what you said. There's the narrative that we all know, and we've all been guilty of spreading it sometimes, but like almost like we have to be perfect, right? And it's like, no, like I'm going to make mistakes today. I'm going to make a mistake tomorrow. It's like, but I'm not going to sit there and make an excuse about it because I lost a battle buddy. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm going to get stronger and better because I don't know. And yes, it is right to say this, in my opinion. Somebody correct me wrong. I do owe it to them. Right?
You know,
I
it's kind of cool. We were just talking, I was just talking about this, like, we aren't needed anymore, that whole thing. Well, holy shit, fucking, we are. By them.
Yeah.
They need us to be on our fucking shit because we represent them.
I don't know if you've watched the news lately, but the world needs a superhero, and we are it.
Yeah, and then the last part you were talking about, which I wanted to caveat on, was again another narrative that, you know, we've talked about this on the show before, where the media has done a really good job at separating the service member from a United States citizen. Right? Like, oh, it's okay that soldier died or that Marine died because they call that narrative, that name, right? That name separates them to the people's minds who are just living their life, you know, ignorant. And it's like, oh, that's what they're supposed to do. Those Marines die, right? Like, soldiers die. No, that was somebody from Montana, right? That was somebody who graduated high school in the United States. That was somebody, you know, who is serving it. And again, we don't want to guilt people into it, but there is that narrative of, you know, we're just killing machines. And, you know, I don't know, everyone's MOS that is chatting or on, but it's like most of us were combat armed. So yeah, we could be a killing machine when that switch was hit.
But
right.
I think
you had to ask for it.
But we are the only army that I've ever read about or seen that we are there to help people. We are literally there to do as much helping as we can. And oh, by the way, you want to fuck around and find out? Like we're pulling security so we can build this school and have running water to it, right? You want to shoot at me? Okay, you're gonna find out what my other life is. But yeah, like, go ahead, Rico.
So that last part was my primary function as military police. I was in combat arms. I was there to assist with aid, assist with the buildup of schools, the supplies, making sure they're getting through, food, fuel, etc. And that last part was really important. You know, you don't want to play the fuck around and find out game with us, because we have a humanitarian mission essentially to make sure that things are operating, moving, and the police are being trained up, the highway guards are being trained up. You got different functions that are starting to pop up around the city again, making it livable. And if people want to come through and interject in that process, then we have a whole set of escalatory means that we can employ, up to and including lethal use of force. But that isn't our primary function. And in the rear, before we go to the field to deploy, we're taught a lot about how to interact with the local population. Use some of their words so that we can communicate better. Try to understand what it is that they're trying to say. Because a lot of it is Mr. Water, Mr. Food, Mr. Fuel, Mr. Help me. And it isn't the other stuff that your MOS is tasked out to do, kicking in doors. You know, the other side of the equation. So when we come back and people want to play that, well, what did you do game? It's like, oh, well, it's complicated. You know what I mean?
Did a fucking lot for a 19.
It's
more than you. That's what I did.
I don't know. I fucked around and found out, and then I'm not really sure what I found out. So it's going to take me a minute to process. And when I do, if I do, I'll get back to you on it. Yeah.
Well said, Rico. Yeah.
I think the other problem is
just one last point to your superhuman comment or your superhero. That's a real phenomenon. If you look at post-World War II, how many individuals who had survived that situation who went into politics, local, state, federal, international ambassadors, etc. Why? Because they knew what the result of bad diplomacy was. They knew what the result of false bravado was, of saber rattling when you've never been in a fist fight, that kind of thing, and how important it is to get the message across clear in a manner where the other side understands that you don't want to go there, but wow, look at his eyes when he said that shit. And I don't want to find out if he's willing to go there. And so it's better for everybody if we just find ways to play along nicely with one another. And so regardless of who's on the Republican, Democratic, Libertarian, Independent, Green Party side of the house, we're all American citizens. There's no left, no right. It is like your ideological preference makes up that decision to go and make a vote when that time has come in our nation. But we're American citizens. And I went as a citizen of Tucson, Arizona, after the attacks on 9/11 to do my part. Because my country was like, hey, man, we got some shit going on. We got to go find out what the fuck. And okay, so I did my job over there. And then I came back as a citizen, not understanding what the fuck I was looking at, with people complaining about the most minute things. And then identity politics this, and then I have to choose sides that, when all I want to do is fucking garden. I'm sorry, that was about a
I think what you're the point that you're getting to is that, you know, Memorial Day brings out a lot of different emotions and a lot of different people, but it highlights the fact that people that have a personal connection to Memorial Day and people that are being memorialized also have a much broader, different worldview, especially as you get older. And we've talked about it before on the show, like those people that died, those soldiers that died at Tower 22 in Jordan just a few months ago. You know, even a few years ago, like Nick said, I would have looked at them and like, well, you know, they're soldiers. That's what we do. We die. You know what I mean? If we have to, that's the check that we write is for everything. That being said, as a 47-year-old father of two, one being a 15-year-old boy who's 3 years away from being able to join the Army, it hits different. Those soldiers, two of them, the two female soldiers were, in their early 20s. They're only a few years older than my son, only a couple years older than my daughter. Like, they could have been my kids. Us knowing what we know after going through the global war on terror, being in the military, all that stuff, and having the worldview that we have, it's our duty. Like, we did our job, but our duty still continues. It's our duty to let people know that, if you're going to send our children, our daughters and our sons, to different countries, wherever they are, it better be for a really good reason. And you better have a plan. Don't do the same shit to them as you did to us and go to Iraq and Afghanistan with no fucking plan to pull out, with, no reason to make the guys that we do lose. For us, they didn't die in vain. But if you didn't get anything out of it, for us personally, we knew those guys. We got to see them at their best. We got to see them at their worst. But the government in and of itself is shitting on them when they don't have anything positive to show of their sacrifice. And it's our job now, and you're right, to either, run for political office or be very, very boisterous about the fact that, if war is what we're doing, if jumping into other conflicts is what we're doing, you better have a good fucking reason for doing it. Because at the end of the day, if we're going to lose our kids, we're going to go back and do the same shit again, which they've asked for at some points. There better be a fucking good reason for it. And we're not just going to blindly let the next generation go into some bullshit just so, Senator so-and-so or President so-and-so can make a wad of money and a bunch of, that's just not how we're going to allow this to go on anymore.
Hey, buddy, I'd like to throw in on that point that someone made about, civilians look at us as, oh, well, they were soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine. They should have expected to die. I'm going to go back to a good friend of mine, John Hawley and Stacy Hawley. And I'm sure you guys have probably either read or heard of the book Medals, Flags, and Honors about their son, Matthew Hawley, who was a medic with the 101st Airborne, killed outside of, oh, God, can't remember the name of the town in the big city in northern Iraq.
Tikrit or Adwar?
Yeah, Tikrit.
Yeah.
When he came home from Dover, they expected to see an honor guard or something else. They got a ticket and they went to the cargo section of Southwest Airlines. The military flew his body home without a flag on it as cargo. Well, that was their only child, and John and Stacy were livid. And with the help of the congressional delegation in San Diego, people in the military, they got Matthew's Law passed, which required that all servicemen going, soldiers, sailors, airmen, or Marines killed overseas get an escort home. And so it's small stuff like that. Civilians didn't really care,
Yeah, it's not that they didn't care. They just didn't. They can't comprehend it. They can't comprehend it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And so something as small as that, now you see everywhere, somebody's on a plane and there's a fallen service member on the plane, and all of a sudden it's all over YouTube. And small little things that come back to that, I don't know how they do Memorial Day every year. John and Stacy are just fantastic people. Matt was their only child. And, it's the backstories like that of the kids who didn't have families, just their mom and dad, brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
You know, my good buddy Brian Dunlop, all he had was, he was never married. But he had his firefighter buddies, his Marine buddies, his mom, and the entire community rallied around him. And he was killed in action in Taqadum, Iraq, September 20th of 2005 from an IED. But, and I'll go on to another point about the survivor's guilt and moving on. It's eventually we make friends with our demons. So they no longer haunt us. We see them, we're like, okay, yeah, you're there. But by finding a positive thing, we literally control those demons, almost like putting a dog on a leash kind of thing. And that they no longer torture us. They no longer hurt us, but now we have them on a leash and we get to do what we want with them.
Yeah. And I don't think, and we've said it plenty of times. But when you said it, it kind of struck me like we say that we've moved on. You know what I mean? Like we're moving on and we're, healing. I mean, I don't think you move forward, you don't move on. They're always there with you. You know what I mean? Like to me, I don't know. I'm a little kooky anyway, but to me, I feel like there are times where like, I feel like I'm being watched and judged by the guys that didn't make it. And it's to me, it's kind of like what Jason was talking about earlier about, not wanting to, like when you go to selection or whatever, you don't have to like tell anybody to fucking try hard or you can do it or whatever. Cause they're all, you're self-selecting the whole time. You're always being assessed. And the worst thing for one of us is to disappoint one of our homies. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep.
That doesn't go away when that guy or girl dies. You still feel like the worst thing you could do, even after they're gone, is to disappoint them.
Yeah.
Yep. One of the things I'd like to say about something is that about having I was for a while when I was in the Army, I was on a color guard and a burial detail. And I think part of the thing that people forget, and this is, about having the escort, is most people, and especially civilians, we rail on civilians all the time. I mean, about, they don't understand Memorial Day, but, civilians have lost brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, sons and daughters, and sometimes they don't know. The other day I'll give you a prime example. Even people that, I was driving through Columbus and I saw a police cruiser from Sharon Township. And so the Sharon Township, and I made a post about it, they had a decal on their car so if you opened up the rear on the passenger side, so if you open up the rear door, it split the flag in half. Now, when we were in the Marine Corps and when we had this called the Blue Book of Customs and Courtesies, a half flag is a dead man's flag. That is, if you're ever overran, you cut the flag in half, and that's a dead man's flag. You don't ever let your colors be taken by the enemy, so you basically never get an intact, flag taken over. And a lot of the problem is that a lot of people that are both, civilians, they don't understand. There's a process, and there are whatever you want to call them, customs and courtesies, that it's the place of the service people to remember our own fallen. It's, sometimes civilians do the best they can. They don't know. And I think part of the survivor's guilt, going back and you take a look at it, maybe your duty or your obligation is to tell the story. So, right. Of the ones that, if you had gone out that day, Earl, how would your brother be remembered? If you didn't tell his story, would he still be remembered the same? Would he be, and sometimes you have, sometimes you're the one that survives, so you can tell their story better. And as painful as that is, and as heartbreaking and heart-wrenching as it is, maybe your obligation to them is to tell their story so that their spirit and their legacy and their legend lives on. I mean, it might not be it's not a whole lot of solace, but, sometimes that is, the way life works out.
Yeah, well said, George. And yeah, I'll give you that compliment. I don't give George very many compliments, but I agree with Face Man. That was very, very well said, and agree with that. And like you brought up the color guard or doing funeral details. In my own personal experiences, like it is very difficult for me to even be at a memorial. It's very difficult for me to even like hear taps. Right, because especially if you've done a funeral detail and you've handed a folded flag and you say what you're supposed to say and you think don't screw it up, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like it's almost like go back to the superhero word. It's not like I've done it twice and both times it was like I couldn't get through it practicing it once perfect, and then when I did it for the two families I did it for, it came out perfect. It came out exactly how it was supposed to be said, and not because I'm a superhero, but it's almost like, and then going back to like Buddy said, it's almost like something took over me and was like, you're gonna honor, you're gonna do this for them, right? So I just wanted to say, because I got to go jump and hang out with my family now. So I don't know how much time Chris has or what everybody wants to stay on. But I love you guys, and I really appreciate you coming on and doing this with me. Everybody watching, everybody commenting, it makes the day awesome. So I just
well, Nick, before you jump off, let me real quick. I wanted to share this today about Brian. He was an awesome fireman. Was a Marine. Before he became a fireman, he was in the Marine Corps in Okinawa. He was on the silent drill team even there. Got out, went to work for CAL FIRE for a while, and then came to work with us at Pendleton. And in 2004, he was his reserve unit was at Los Alamitos, and they were asking for volunteers, or they were going to have to send people. And since he wasn't married and had no kids, he decided he would volunteer so that a married guy with kids could be there through Christmas and Thanksgiving and everything with their kids. And that's how he ended up going over. But that guy was literally, you take all of us about sarcasm and dark humor. He was C3PO of that. He was knowledgeable in 3 million forms of sarcasm and dark humor. There was somebody started a fire in one of the kitchens at our station one time, and all you had to do is put the lid on the pot and put the fire out. He's up on the roof. The next thing we hear is a chainsaw firing up. He's got just his T-shirt on, his gloves, no helmet, no nothing, and a cigarette hanging in his mouth, ready to cut a hole in the roof. And we knew he was just being a smartass, but we had a standby captain that didn't know him. And he's out there yelling, "Brian, what the hell are you doing?" We're all laughing. He's just looking down the roof going, "What? Got to vent the roof."
Dude, okay, I got to tell a quick story, too, because the whole color guard thing just reminded me of – go ahead, brother. Finish up.
So when we got news he was killed, it was a big deal in San Diego. We put together everything for his funeral up in Sacramento. San Diego firefighters, pipes and drums, got tons of donations to go up there to be there for him. And in typical Brian fashion, some screw up at Dover. He was the scheduled funeral. He was going to be late. So it literally took a Marine general to get involved and ASAP his body to California. And his funeral was supposed to start at 1, and it didn't get going till 3 till he finally showed up. And we're all going, typical Brian, he's late to his own freaking funeral. And it went off without a hitch, but there were all these subtle hints that he was still there with us and, you know, being a smartass. For instance, the night before the funeral, went to a restaurant and all of a sudden they had to shut down because we drank all their beer. I'm like, yeah, okay, Brian's here, you know, and that kind of thing. And to this day, you know, anytime couple of people start talking, even on the phone or together, something funny will happen and we'll go, gee, I wonder if Brian's here. Just like the other night, I was talking to a good friend of mine who was his best friend, who's a retired warrant officer from the Marine Corps. And I hear this thud. I look out my window, some bear out of nowhere rolled down the between the driveway next door and mine, rolled into my truck, and he's behind my truck shaking his head off. And then literally decides to drop a deuce right there in my driveway. I'm telling Loggy this, and I go, that had to be Brian. And it's like, well, it answers the question, does a bear shit in the woods? No, it shits in a driveway in the woods in Pine. So, you know, we got a good chuckle out of that one. But, yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Yeah. But those are, I mean, honestly, I'd love to tell you that that story's super unique in that, but I bet that everybody has their own, like, knowing that those dudes are, like, for me, it's my old medic Carl, and we joke. I joke around with his widow sometimes. Like, Carl's just up there pushing fucking buttons, and like,
you know, those motherfuckers are, wouldn't you be?
Like, he's bored playing a little game of fuck around, and and like crazy shit happens, and it happened at his memorial, it happened at his funeral, it happens around here all the time. I live in the dude's, like, I bought his house from him before he died, and like I live in his house. Shit, just my fiance was here once, and I have his picture on the wall, and she was just like cleaning some stuff up, and for no reason his picture fell off, and she like grabbed it and caught it. Was like, no, not today, motherfucker. Like, in trouble. But for real, if you look around, those dudes are still, there are reminders everywhere.
Dude, I think they like foist themselves on your life too. It's like,
honestly,
motherfucker, remember me, bitch.
Yeah,
I know they do.
Yeah, and you have your choice. You can look at it and be like, oh man, like, now I'm sad. Or you can look at it and just be like, all right, brother, you're still there. Cool. Like, you're not alone, even when you're alone, I guess, is where we're at.
Just real quick,
18, bro?
I know we talked a lot about the people that we lost personally or who fell downrange, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we lost recently the last survivor of the USS Arizona, Lou Conter, and the older generations of warfighters and veterans and stuff like that who are dying out, who may not have battle buddies, or people who remember their sacrifices and stuff like that, still deserve attention and to be remembered about their time.
100%. And you know, I think we do a decent job around Veterans Day of kind of remembering those dudes and talk to them. But at this point, like, those World War II, Korean, Vietnam veterans, all those guys, like, I feel like the generation, like our generation of soldiers, airmen, Marines, we all look at those guys with this weird reverence. Well, it's not weird. It's just like those Vietnam vets that were in the fucking jungle doing it, or those dudes that were in Korea freezing their ass off doing it, or those guys that were in World War II. Just, you're there for the duration. Plus,
until it fucking ends, you're there.
You're there. Can I say something real quick? My first Marine Corps ball was November 1984 at Camp Pendleton. So that's how old I am. So the first Marine Corps ball, we had one of the guys that was from the Battle of Belleau Woods came to speak to us.
Dude.
Now, there's very few times that you ever get starstruck, right? and I don't get. I mean, I don't get starstruck. Celebrities and all that. But he's sitting there telling us the story of, the unit that he was in had 2 major generals of the Marine Corps in it. And he's talking about how Cooter from Tennessee gets on a killing spree, goes into the machine gun line, starts, and he's cursing, he's cursing in a Southern drawl, and he gets in one of the culverts, and he, or in one of the, with a bayonet and a shotgun, a shotgun with a bayonet on it.
Trench gun, they call them. Yeah, fuck
yeah. The trench guns. He's sitting there unaliving Germans, yelling at his buddies to come to come on the lead, come on the backside. And I mean, he's telling the story, and there are Vietnam veterans, guys that had served, I was still, like my gunny and first sergeant were, I was in 19 at the time. There were still, guys from Vietnam, and they're listening to this story, and we're all like, and I'd made a post about him, and his name was Corporal Greenwood, and he, every generation loses out.
Yeah.
I lived long enough. I enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1983. I lived long enough to see the last World War I veteran die. Mm-hmm. We're going to see. I mean, unless we're going to live long enough. I'm going to live to see the last World War II veteran die.
Dude, this is a great fucking point, and I think I'm taking this to heart, and it's kind of a new realization for me, and I'm going to pass this to all you guys too. Tell your fucking stories, man.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I was about to say the same thing.
It's gonna fucking hurt. Tell your stories.
Yeah,
to your kids.
Well, and tell all of them. Tell the good ones. Tell the bad ones. But when he was talking, the thing that strikes me is that it's kind of that imposter syndrome thing too. Yeah, you don't feel like your story is that important because it's just your story. You know what I mean? But to kind of piggyback off of what he said too, and talking about those World War II and Korean War veterans and Vietnam veterans, and you look at a lot of these guys now that were World War II, Vietnam, Korea, especially World War II and Korean veterans. You look at them now, and let's be honest, they're old, right. They're small, they're they need help walking, they're in nursing homes. They're having to be assisted, whatever. But if you want to meet the 18-year-old fire in his nuts, World War II, Korea, just talk to them. And their eyes, they've still got that same fire, that same, they'll get after it. If their body would keep pace with their mind and their attitude, they're still there. And you're right. Talk to them, get their story, but tell your story too, because your story is just as important, especially let's face it, we have a generation that is coming along that they need for somebody to tell them that it's okay to be a tough guy. It's okay to help kids and kill the enemy. It's okay to give people an MRE because they're hungry. And if somebody shoots at you, give them every bit of what they want.
You're goddamn right.
But hey, buddy, I'm gonna add to that something. Hey, George, now because you shared that with us, that World War that Cooter from Tennessee in World War I, he's still alive because his memory just got shared on Memorial Day. And so not only our stories, but all the stories from World War I and World War II and Korea and Vietnam, and now even since it's been over 30 years, Gulf War, guys. And, not only just your story, but every story that you've heard from generations past to keep those stories going. And I'll be honest with you, it just dawned on me like a, light bulb going off. There's a good way to really positively push forward Memorial Day. Because now, on top of our stories, we're giving you generations of stories.
And your
One of
kids,
the guys that we had,
they might not seem interested at all. They might their eyes might glaze over, whatever. But they're gonna be like, my dad told me some stories once. I wish I'd got more attention.
One of the guys we had a
remember-
contributor on VRS is a guy named Doug Kirk, and he was a corporal in Way City, right? And he just passed away last year. And we used and for VRS we used to host, we used to host a Marine Corps dinner, and he would come in, he'd bring his sword because he was always the oldest Marine. But he was talking about in Way City, there's a and I'll pull the award up because it is fucking hilarious. He's pinned down at the Ohio University campus in Way City, right? And who knew that Ohio University had a campus in Way City? So his squad is there, and there's a guy by the name of Lance Corporal Ramirez. I never forget. I don't know. He said, I don't know what happened to him. They show up, him and another Marine, they show up with 2 Ontos.
Nice.
And they basically emptied every single round in an Ontos to get the guys, the Marines, out of there.
It's our coolest rifle on a freaking track.
Well, they have Quad 50s, recoilless rifles. They got everything. They emptied everything. I mean, they just, and they got they got enough cover to get them to go to, they basically got them to, got the squad out of there. But it's stories like that. And part of the, one of the things that we don't realize, when 2.8 and 3.7 had gone into Fallujah in 3.5, they had actual video of this, of the Battle of Fallujah, and other places in Iraq. You got to remember in World War II, in Korea, there's very little footage because people did not have access to media. They didn't have access, to, recording device. And this guy they just posted 3 hours of video this guy found in Vietnam that they uploaded, and he hadn't seen it in years. And part of the thing about Iraq and with Afghanistan is, I was in Somalia. We didn't have that much, and it's not that long ago. We didn't have that much, we didn't take that many pictures. And so I tell you, take pictures with your guys, because there's going to be a time you're going to be at the barracks and you're going to have a beer with your guy, and that's going to be the last time you see them. You're not going to realize that was the last time, and that's that. And as you get older, I don't miss fucking painting rocks at 29 Palms. I don't miss Camp Wilson. I don't miss, being but you miss your dudes. You miss your brothers and your, and it also kind of, you kind of think about shit differently as you get older because, you're going to lose stuff, you're going to lose material things, and you're going to realize material things really don't fucking matter. It's your friendships, your relationships, and everything else. And it is just a problem that arises that, I know that, buddy, I think you might be I don't know how old are you, Zumi? Firefighter, how old are you?
Oh, Sean, I'm 53.
Okay, I'm 58. So you don't realize as you get older what you're going to value. And what you're going to value is going to be your friendships, your family, the love you take with you. Because, I look at it like this. Melted Crown. Yeah, absolutely. They were, if you've ever been to 29 Palms, there are people, I have an employee of mine that we had this, one of my partners we're on the Marine Corps wrestling team together. And one of my employees did time in prison for selling drugs. And I said, go up to him and ask him without me even coaching him, because he's in the back of the warehouse doing some work. And I said, go to him. Would you rather go to 29 Palms for 30 days or prison for 30 days? And he's going to tell you prison, 9 out of 10 times, jail. He'd rather do jail than 29 Palms. And Cello goes in the back of the warehouse. I stayed in the office. He goes back, and my buddy's printing. He's like, yep. He's like, 29. No, we'll go to. I'd go to jail for 30 days. Yeah, pretty much. But those are the things that you miss. You know, I mean, I don't know that I miss humping a 60 in 29 Palms, but it just, you know, take pictures, have beers with your guys, get together, share life experiences, because when you get older, that's all you're going to be able to have to draw on.
Mm-hmm. And now with all the digital pictures, you gotta back them up, because if you lose them, it's the worst day ever when you can't figure out how to get them. And you know, there are a lot of organizations that do reunions. Like, if your organization has a reunion, don't think that you don't need to go. Call one or two of the guys that you have your phone numbers with and just go. You'll be surprised at who you meet.
I totally agree. I blew that shit off for years, like fucking years, 15, 20 fucking years. And if I do a couple, I'm like, God damn, I needed that shit.
My dad is is retired, and he just now, a few years ago, started going to the 13th Infantry Regiment's reunion every year. And
well, at least for you, buddy, you got to go to the SF reunions just so they can remind you.
Well, he started going to his 13th Infantry reunions, but he started going to those because every Labor Day, there's a group of guys that I was in the 82nd with that we started meeting up, and we just started doing it because we were like, fuck it, let's just do it. We made excuses, let's just meet up. And I'll tell you, it recharges your soul every fucking year. It is just, you go there, you meet, it's the same conversations with the same guys that you had 20 years ago. It's just,
maybe they can remind you that The Quiet Man is a much better movie than
The Sands of Iwo Jima.
No, it is. It is.
Green Berets.
It's better than The Sands of Iwo Jima. And I'm a Marine.
I know that we're not coming at Sergeant John Stryker right now, man.
Be a Marine, even John Wayne. God damn it!
I know we're not coming crazy at Sergeant John Stryker.
Hey, listen.
Okay,
if you count to
three, a Marine, and you're making me
the best line John Wayne ever said in a movie, bar none, is, "Sir, you count to 3. You won't hear the man count 10."
Yeah, so I've been watching. My son was like, "Yeah, there's a bunch of movies I haven't watched, and these are like old, like Reservoir Dogs, Stand by Me." Like, we watched. We put like a group in a hat. We watched a movie, like, you know, so he could get some culture. And we watched Stand by Me last night. Coldest line I've ever heard. Like, I forgot that it was in that movie, is when he's holding the pistol and Ace is like, "What, are you going to shoot all of us?" And he's like, "No, Ace, just you." I was like, damn, for a 12-year-old? That kid is.
Yeah. But I am going to show my son Full Metal Jacket today. Every tomorrow day, Full Metal Jacket's proper.
You just have to warn him that it's not. It's very realistic, in that it's boring for a little bit, and then it gets crazy, and then it gets boring, and then it's crazy, and then it's boring.
Exactly.
That's like combat. Exactly. It's like regular combat.
I gotta tell you, you know what is an overlooked movie that we watched in boot camp, and time has really not been very accommodating, is Uncommon Valor.
Yes.
It has not been. It is one of those movies that, you know, as it's aged, it just really did not get the recognition that it really, you know, it deserved. It was one of the better movies that came out. And there's another one, if you ever guys want to watch, it's you won't believe who's in it, but it's a great movie to watch. And I implore some of you that were younger, there's a movie with Henry Winkler that came out about it was called Heroes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very it talks about a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today. Great movie, kind of overlooked because he was the Fonz at the time, and he was in Happy Days, but it's a great movie. Kind of watch it, have a beer in hand. Just remember that, it very poignant.
That's George.
Okay,
That,
super.
George, that
Wrap this
flashback
shit up.
scene in that movie in
Hey,
Heroes.
Brian, I'll kick it
That
to
was
you, buddy.
probably, I
But
think, one of the best ways to that Vietnam vets actually
No
liked that
understanding of
because it was so realistic.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those movies that I think a lot, like I said, is we get old, people, I think this generation, the first war movie, I think was The Hurt Locker. I think maybe it was I think that was the first. And I listen, I'm not defending The Hurt Locker, please, by all means. I'm not, but I'm just saying that people don't realize that, The Hurt Locker is the first, it was the first movie about that, that this generation.
Global War, yeah.
I think Starship Troopers
hey,
was ahead
guys,
of its time.
I gotta wrap this up because fucking everyone wants to get back to their families, and even the people watching us are like, "Well, these motherfuckers just shut the fuck up."
Now we're just talking about movies. and to be honest, we could talk all day.
All right.
Let me
No.
just say one last thing to you guys. I will tell you this. In May of 2018, when I was diagnosed with stage 4 triple hit B-cell lymphoma, I thought my life was over. But I'll tell you, the veteran community, even guys I'd never even met before, and the firefighter community came out of the woodwork, came to UCSD, telling me, "You got this. You're gonna, kick its ass." Blah 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 blah. And it doesn't matter if I've met them or not. People literally came to show up because it's like, here's a brother that needs it. He's got 4 young kids, and whether that's how we literally roll.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say I'm so grateful to everyone in this community because when I've needed you guys, you've all been there.
Well, it's a great community to be a part of. Jason, go ahead and close us out. And like I said, we could legitimately talk all day. So,
Dude, okay, I'm gonna read this shit that I wrote yesterday. It was me. I was pissed yesterday. Fucking Memorial Day's coming up. It got me. Fucking freight train slammed into me, and I was like, I'm a writer, so I was like, I gotta write something down. And I was thinking, this is too much about me or whatever. And then I just started writing what I was feeling. So it's short. The goddamn it, fucking Memorial Day. Let's dredge up a bunch of a shitload of heavy stuff day. Always forget. I guess I think I've gotten over it somehow or past it. I'm not even sure what it is. I'm not fucking pitying you. Fuck, only the limp dick civilians do that. It's not mourning. You'd call me a pussy and tell me to quit bitching. You always hated bitching. It pissed me the fuck off, or pissed you the fuck off. It did. This guy, I'm talking to Johnny Hayes. He fucking died. Fucking Afghanistan. Fucking forget the year. 09, I think. I'm not feeling sorry for myself. Fuck no. You'd swing on me for that for sure. Dude, I was at a chiropractor's office in Washington a few years back and mentioned the Marine Corps and falling out of airplanes, etc., as the cause of my back injuries. Was it worth it? He asked. I still fucking hate that fuck and hope he dies a horrible fucking death soon for it. Was it fucking worth it? As if we went in there expecting a fucking treat after. I wanted to kill him with my bare fucking hands. Was your violent, I'm talking to Johnny, was your violent fucking death worth what exactly? The values of what is at stake is a question that's there's no fucking way to quantify the value of Johnny's life versus, like, what are we fucking even talking about here? So, was your death worth the chance to kill the people who would be standing in the chiropractor's office, sawing his fucking head off, laughing as he watched him in the mirror? Actually, it fucking was. How much is it worth it? How much is it worth to kill those who would violently kill my kids and our families if they had the slightest chance? It was worth Johnny's life, man. It was worth my life. It's with your life and yours and yours and yours. We just didn't get called. It's worth that much. I know you'd be okay with that. It will never sit right with me that you gave so much and I didn't have to. That's what the it is. And I miss the fuck out of you, motherfucker. And I hope I make you proud somehow. That helped me figure out what the fuck was bothering me on Memorial Day, dude.
Well said.
You don't have to write it down. But think about what's fucking pissing you off so bad and figure it the fuck out. That'll get you past it, and you can enjoy the fucking day with your family and honor your fucking friends. Okay?
I mean, to be honest, Jason, I don't think anybody could have said it better. That was raw, it was emotional, vulnerable, like all the you know, and it takes it's hard to channel that and then put it down on a piece of paper, and hopefully people can people that understand can take something from it. George, Jason, Rico, Sean, it's great having you guys on. We're gonna close out this show and jump off here. Go have a barbecue with your families. Go tell your stories. Go tell their stories, and just, you know,
live.
I don't know who wrote the quote, but you know, everybody dies. Everybody fucking dies. Not everybody gets to live, and those guys fucking lived. So
They fucking did, dude.
Live for them.
Only a few of us are deserve to die at war. The rest of us die in our fucking beds. So fucking
exactly.
Fucking.
But it was good to have you guys on the show. If you guys are tuning in, watch and you want to look, replay it later, or you go on Spotify, check us out on Facebook, TikTok, I think Instagram, all of the grams and the ticks and the talks and all that stuff.
Pornhub.
Share with your friends and your family. And I don't even care about the other shows, but these Memorial Day shows, they just always turn out a little bit more special than the other ones. So if watch them with your friends, watch them with your families, and then use it as a gate. It'd be the pot of talking to your family. Use it as a gateway to open up that conversation. Have a happy Memorial Day. Remember who you need to remember, and don't forget to remember yourself. And we'll see you guys later.
Let's go out there and live.
Goddamn right. Represent.